My name's Brad. I'm originally from Michigan. I've been in La Paz for a little over 2 months now. And back in November, I left Michigan with everything I own in my car, and it was a very liberating feeling. I went to Phoenix for a while to visit my kids, then I came on down here to the Baja, and it's been great. It's certainly exceeded my expectations so far. So I'm retired, just taking advantage of this point in my life to get out and see the world. My decision to move to Mexico, I kind of thought of it in a format of 4 C's. One, climate, culture, cost, and care being healthcare. Climate is gorgeous, certainly this time of year, and I'm from Michigan, so I was really tired of the cold winters, and that's one of the things I wanted was a bit nicer climate. The culture, I've always had an affinity towards Latin culture. I've spent a lot of time in Mexico. Over the last 40 years, I've probably been here 25 times, and I've just always found the Mexican people to be very kind and generous and welcoming. The cost is obviously an advantage to living here, so I'm still kind of working that out. I've only been here a couple months, but over time I'll get a better feel for long-term costs. And then the 4th C is care, for healthcare. And I haven't had a lot of interaction with the healthcare system here, but I have talked to a lot of people that have been very impressed with it. Canadians especially, they're impressed by how you can get in very quickly to get treated, and usually can just pay out of pocket because it's not an insurmountable cost. I did drive to Mexico with everything I own in my car and a bank account. I suppose you could count that too, but the drive down from Phoenix was very enjoyable. Drove down the Baja. It's interesting, I had been to the Baja one other time in my life. It was 35 years ago with my dad. We came here to go scuba diving, and then we drove up the Baja Peninsula to go back to the US. So this time my son came with me from Phoenix and we drove down here. So I kind of felt like I was completing a generational process there. It was very enjoyable. It was some good time to spend with my son, who's 31 years old. My original plan in moving to Mexico is to spend a couple months in multiple cities that I've done some research on, and then decide where I want to stay permanently. I've been in La Paz 2 months. I really like it. I've made the decision recently to stay another 6 months here. And after that, other cities I'm considering are Mazatlan, maybe some of the suburbs around Puerto Vallarta. And if I decide that the summer heat is too much in the coastal climates, I've looked at Querétaro and San Miguel de Allende, and also Oaxaca, which are at higher altitudes. So it would be a milder summer, maybe a little cooler winter. So those are the things I'm looking at. I'm not in a big hurry, so if it takes me a couple years for me to find my perfect place, that's all right. I'll just get to know Mexico all the better during that time. The cost of living here is certainly much less than living in the United States. I'm in an Airbnb now, which is a little more expensive of a path to take, but there's advantages of being able to see where you're going to live in pictures and having some format to paying and all that. I pay about $1,100 a month for this Airbnb. Speaking to some of my neighbors here and some other people, I think that if I was just going to rent this directly from the landlord, it would be $400, maybe $500 a month. It's very comfortable, but it's not the kind of place I'd stay long term. I'd like a little better kitchen and maybe some more secure parking, but it's very comfortable. And another nice thing about Airbnb is all your utilities and everything are included in that. So it makes it simple, and you pay a little bit for that simplicity. I bought some car insurance before I moved down here. That was about $100 a month, but $50 a month for decent car insurance on an ongoing basis would be better if you buy it in Mexico, or more accurate, I should say. I really enjoy cuisine. I thought of adding that to a fifth C for my format. I spend about $300 to $350 a month on groceries. I like to cook. I also like to go out to restaurants and meet friends, and I probably spend another $300 a month on that. Entertainment, probably on an ongoing basis, you could figure about $100 a month. Since I've been here, I've gone out fishing, I've gone out swimming with the whale sharks, I've gone whale watching. So those are some of the kind of things that I've done for entertainment that could fit into that category. I have my car down here and I like to go on some excursions, and gas is a little more expensive here than in the United States, I'd say, or at least in most states. So I've moved here with a target budget of about $2,500 a month, and I'm still confident that I can live within that, and that's for me, a single person. This area of La Paz is called Estorito. I've been very happy here. It's an easy 3-block walk to the Malecon. I like to go for a long walk in the morning. I have a target of getting 10,000 steps in a day, and that's very easy to do here. Seems to be a very safe part of town. One thing you'll notice in Mexico is they don't have zoning laws, so you might have a very nice, fashionable house right next to an abandoned house. It's just kind of something about that's the way Mexico is. So although there's some very nice houses in this area, there's some not so nice houses as well. I've made friends with some of my neighbors. Again, people in La Paz are very outgoing, and it's been easy to get plugged in socially here. I really appreciate that. In fact, that's one thing I've been a bit surprised about in Mexico, is how easy it is to get plugged in socially. If I have one complaint about that, is I've tended to gravitate towards other expats, and I need to be more proactive in getting to know some more of the Mexican people. Living in Mexico, I don't know, maybe I'm still on the honeymoon stage, but I really feel peaceful and happy here. And I think part of it is just being retired. People tend to have time on their hands to do things and not have worries. But I think the sunshine has something to do with that, the fresh air, the excitement of meeting new people and trying new foods. So for me, it's really had a positive effect on my life. Another reason I chose Mexico over other countries that I looked at is the relatively simple bureaucratic process of moving here. I started the process at the Mexican consulate in Detroit. I think it was September of last year. I went in, I was in and out in an hour, and was approved for the next step of the permanent residency process, which from that point you have 6 months to check in Mexico. I came here. I did use a facilitator, which made it very easy. The biggest delay was that they had run out of laminating film to issue me my card. So that took a couple weeks to get it. But yeah, my facilitator showed up at my door and gave me my card. So that part of it was easy. You have to do some of these things sequentially. So once I got the card, I could go get a driver's license. I could get a tax ID number. I picked away at those things myself. Wasn't too complicated. You can make appointments online for those things. The reason I started my journey in Mexico in the Baja is because it's a free zone. It's easier to bring my car here. I didn't have to pay a tip. I'm working on getting it nationalized now, and I think I'm close to the end of that process, but I've thought that for a couple weeks so far. So that's, I think, probably the final bureaucratic box that I need to tick in order to move on. And when I finish that, I'll have a Mexican title for my car and a Mexican license plate. I've traveled a lot internationally on business, so I've had a chance to see a lot of different cultures and countries. I maybe almost took too much of an analytical approach to it, and looking at the most popular places that people do retire, you know, Panama, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Portugal, Mexico is always towards the top of the list. And and considered all of those, visited a few of them. And probably the deciding factor was that it's close to Phoenix, where my kids and grandkids live, and it's an easy trip home to visit them. Again, the Mexican people are very welcoming. I have not felt unwelcome at any time. My Spanish is pretty good, so I think I would notice if there were harsh words or anything said. Um, I thought it was interesting one morning when I was going for a walk, a guy said to me, Buenos dias, güero. And güero is a term for like whitey, kind of, I think, synonymous with whitey. And I wasn't offended by that. I just thought it was interesting. One thing nice about this community in La Paz is it's so easy to get plugged in socially. There's multiple local groups that meet typically weekly. There's one called Baja Buddies. They have a Facebook group that you could sign on to and meet once a week, typically Wednesday night. There's a group called Newbies in La Paz. We meet for lunch every Thursday. And then this week I went for the first time to a group called Spanglish. And what I liked about that is it gave me more exposure to Mexican people rather than just expats. It was a lot of fun. I was there for almost 2.5 hours and the conversation didn't stop. Typically they put 2 Spanish speakers and 2 English speakers at a table, and every 20 minutes you alternate between languages. They come by and put cards on the table to give you ideas of topics to talk about, but we didn't have any problem keeping the conversation going. The 2 Mexican people that were there, their English was pretty good. I enjoy speaking Spanish. I'm quite comfortable in it. I've worked on that pretty much my whole life, developing that ability. So that part of moving here was very easy. But I think you have to have some degree of willingness to attack and learn the language, and you have to be show some courage on that, and Mexico is a great place to do that. I've never seen somebody put down for their lack of ability, especially if they make an effort at it. My advice for anybody thinking about moving to Mexico is, one, come visit, preferably for an extended time of at least a month. I'd say try a couple different cities, see how comfortable you are. As much as I love it here, I have to say it's probably not for everybody. You know, this is still Mexico. There's some things like when you rent a house, there's a few loose wires and chip paint. The zoning laws maybe aren't what we're used to. But to me, that's part of the charm of it all. If you're really uptight about everything being in the right place at all the right time, maybe you'd struggle a little bit here. The other thing I think is the culture is more of a let things happen rather than make things happen. To me, that's refreshing. Some people may be uncomfortable with that. So this journey has been very exciting for me, both the planning and the execution. I'm an adventurous person by nature. I just can't wait to see what's around the next corner. And Mexico is a great place to do that. I've spent my whole life visiting Mexico. I've been to every state in Mexico except for one, a small one called Tlaxcala. And I think the Mexicans even have a joke that, well, nobody's been to Tlaxcala, so that one doesn't really count. So if you have a need for adventure and looking for some excitement in your life and some sunshine and meeting wonderful people, this is a great place to do that. So I would encourage that if you think that's what you would make you happy. And thank you for listening to my story about my journey. And goodbye for now, or adios.